Welcome to part 2 of the VWT1 transporter build-up. Made some progress so far on this kit. We've got a couple of layers of the paint that I've chosen to go on this model. It does need another couple of coats to go on there. The colour I have chosen for this one is this one. It's again from Pentart, and it's a violet. I have put down the silver on this as a base coat. If we just show you this part, you might be able to see it a little bit better. That's actually inside the engine bay there, and that's the inside of the door. And as I say, this just needs another couple of coats on there really. We've also got this part as well that's had the silver put on the inside. Sorry, the violet. Well, I'm not really lying when it's when I say it's had silver, because it has. It's had the silver as an undercoat. This is basically the floor, the interior. So the cabin would go in there, so you'd have the seats resting on this bit here, and this bit here, and that bit there would be the cargo bay. And this part is basically the underside, the chassis, and then we've also got, as you saw, the violet in there as well, where the engine bay is. And then again we've got another little bit violet on there. Basically that line that's running across there, you're not going to see. I temporarily put those two bits together just to see what it would be like. That line is just where that part and this part touched. So really, oh, I nearly lost it then. So from that line that way, you're not going to see anything. So that's looking quite cool. I've also started to paint most of the chassis parts. We've also got the first coat of steel on the half of the engine. Now on this one, the engine is done in several parts, because you've got the top half that sits within this area here, and then you've got the bottom of the engine that sits in that area there. So the engine is in two halves, it's not complete. But what parts of the engine that you do have here are actually sort of just as detailed as the engine on the convertible Beetle that I done from Revell. So that's good to know, and that's looking quite good. And then we've just got a few more parts on this tree here painted as well. So they're looking quite good. I've chosen the bumpers that I'm going to use for this. They're not strictly the ones that you should be using for this van, but I want it to have a bit of a custom look. So they're the bumpers that I'm using for it. I will be using the Alclads on these bumpers. That's why I've taken these off of the trees, and I've basically super glued matchsticks into the grooves on the inside there. You're not going to see those. That's why I decided to stick them there, so I can actually paint these and not worry about any sort of marks that need to be sort of covered up or anything. And then we've got the dashboard assembly there. I've already put one part of the dashboard on because it's a tricky part, and I just wanted to get that little grab handle on before I started painting it. All I need to do really is just go along and take these little tabs off, and then I'll be able to get those bits painted and glued together once the steering wheel and the steering column's been sorted out. So excuse me. So I've just got my Alclads delivered by a very nice man called Jeff from Interlink. So we've got this one here, which is the Alclad primer, and microfiller. So this will actually help to fill in any imperfections or small scratches that are in the surface, just to help get them flat. This does actually come in a glass bottle. It doesn't need to be thinned, it's already thinned down to where it needs to be, so that's quite good. That does help. We've also then got the Alclad gloss black base that we need to put over the top of it before we put the chrome on. And again, this is primed to where it, this is thinned down to where it needs to be thinned, and this one's actually in a glass bottle. We've also got the Alclad silver chrome, and again this is thinned down to where it needs to be, so we don't need to thin this. Again, for some strange reason, this is actually in a glass bottle. I've also purchased the Alclad Aqua 600 gloss as well, so this should actually help give it an even better gloss shine afterwards. This can be used on the Alclad chrome, but you don't have to cover it, but I most probably will anyway. I'll experiment with it just to see what happens. And then I also decided to purchase some of the Alclad airbrush cleaner as well, because I'm not sure whether the Alclads will clean with the alcohol and distilled water mix that I have. So we soon see. Now I'm going to be, before I do anything with it, I'm going to be doing a test on this piece here. This is a piece of the VW Transporter. But it's a piece that doesn't need to be used, so it is a spare part. So at the end of the day, I can basically dunk this in some Mr. Muscles afterwards to get rid of the paint. So it's not really a problem for me to actually paint this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get this painted through the various layers. I'll just start with the microfiller primer. What I'm going to do is, as an experiment, is I'm just going to lay that down on one side of this. It's going to be a kind of half and half, like you see on those shopping channel adverts for car wax. So I'm just going to do one half of it with the micro primer, and then I'm going to leave it off of the other side. And then I just use the gloss over the top of that, and then the Alclad over the top of that, and then on one half I'll put the aqua gloss on, just to see what happens. So as soon as I've made some progress on that and I've got this bit done, I will come back to you. It's going to take a couple of hours to do that, as each stage does take a while to dry. So once I've got this sort of sorted out and what have you, I will come back to you and let you know. Okay, so we've got the first stage done, and that is on this one, that's the black primer with microfiller, and as you can see, that's actually a nice smooth surface on there, which is absolutely great. It does say on the bottom, on the bottle, should I say, that you can use like a fine sanding stick, so something like that, I guess, if the surface appears to be a little bit uneven. But that is absolutely looking super smooth at the moment, and it is really smooth to the touch as well. Now they do recommend a half an hour in between each layer of paint that you put on, so that for me now is going to be ready to take on the Alclad Gloss Black. So this is basically the gloss black base for laying down the chrome. So I'm going to be spraying that on not only this side but also on that side as well. As I say, I just want to see the difference between the two of them using the black primer as well. So I'll get on with that, and as soon as I've got that bit done, I will come back to you. Okay, so I've got the gloss black down now, And that's what that's starting to look like. I'm not sure whether you're going to be able to see it on this particular piece. Just there. I accidentally got my finger caught on it, so, but that's okay because the top bit's still going to give us a good idea of what it's going to look like and around that area, so that's fine. One thing I have noticed though on this side, and I'm not sure whether that's going to come up on camera, but just around there the paint has actually pulled away from the edges. So already that kind of tells me really that you do need to use the surface primer, because the paint on that side has remained in place. And if you look at the masking tape that's down the middle of that, that's all nice and glossy too. So that's kind of looking quite good at the moment. So all I need to do now is just apply a couple of thin coats of the Alclad chrome and see what happens. So as soon as I've got that done, I will come back to you. Well, I've done the test on the chrome and it's come out okay. It's not as shiny as I thought it would be, and there are a few issues with it. I don't know whether that's because whether I'm unexperienced with this particular stuff or not. I think what I'm going to need to do is have another go with it. I think what I'm going to need to do is try and do the chrome in lighter coats. Unfortunately, it did come out the airbrush fairly thick, unfortunately, so I think I might need to give that another go and see what happens with fairly light coats. But you can actually see on that quite a good sort of like effect on it. It's just a little bit it looks like chrome, but it just looks like it's dirty chrome, if that makes sense. I have tried to rub it down as it suggests as well, but that did bring the shine up a bit, but it just still looks as though it's dirty chrome. And on the top on there, I've also tried putting a bit of the aqua gloss on there as well, and that does actually make it quite shiny as well. But yeah, I think all in all, for a first attempt, not too bad. I just need to sort of persevere and have another go on something else and see what I can do. But I mean, I'm not sure whether you're actually going to be able to see that on there, but that is fairly thin sort of coverage on that, really. So yeah, I'll give it another go and see what happens on something else, and I'll come back to you with the results. Okay, so we've had some success now with the chrome. I went online late last night and found a tutorial on how to use the chrome, and I will put the link to that in the comment section for this video, for anybody who's interested in watching it. But basically I found out where I was going wrong, and that's the point that I was holding the airbrush far too close to the parts that I needed to paint. So it was actually kind of all splodging onto the part rather than actually having a light dusting. He also recommended to change the airbrush setting to 20 psi as well, rather than the, I think it's 12 to, yeah, it says on there 12 to 15 psi. And at 20 psi that does actually work, as it stops a lot of spattering from the airbrush, so you get a more consistent flow. And keeping the airbrush at about 6 centimeters away from the part that's being sprayed seems to work as well. And just lightly dust it over as though you was stroking it with a paintbrush, and you end up going from what that looked like to this. And that looks really, really shiny. So if I put the two together, you can actually see the difference between the two. So that was a huge success for me. As I say, second attempt, pretty much well nailed it. And then again, if I bring that into there, you can actually see the difference between those two as well. So yeah, second attempt, pretty much well nailed it. So I would recommend for anybody that's going to use these Alclad paints to take a look at the link that I put in there, because that will actually explain how to use them properly. Yeah, I'm just really happy that I managed to get these parts done. So I just need to really now let that dry off. I'll just give you another look actually, because I'm really happy with that. I just can't believe how good that come out. I mean, this stuff, this Alclad, wow. I mean, I've seen videos of it online of how good this was, you know, and people holding it up to the camera, but it's not until you actually you've done it yourself and you can actually see it for yourself how good this stuff really is. I mean, it is amazing. So I'm glad that I've actually taken the time to learn how to use this stuff properly now. The other good thing is I've got some parts coming in today for the model. I've got some wheels that I'm going to be using for the kit, and that's what they look like. So they're going to be replacing the rubbish wheels that you do get with the kit. Let's see if I can find them. There they are. So they're the wheels that come with the kit. And I'm going to be using those. They just need a bit of tidying up. They are resin, and I'm going to be using the Alclad on those as well, so that's kind of cool. I'm going to chrome them up, but as you can see, there is a little bit of work that needs to be done on these, and they do need a little bit of tidying up, but that's fine, that's not a problem. I've also got a brake kit, so you get the calipers and the disc brakes, and the discs themselves for that, which is good, and it comes with a little set of instructions. Basically, these little metal photo etch parts actually fit onto the metal parts there, and then they fit on the top, and then you can fit them into the wheels. So that's great. I'm glad they've come along. I've also got some flocking as well. Let's just see if we can get that out. So that's what that looks like. I've got that tan, and I've also got a brown. A black. And then I've also got some simulated leather of two different colours. And that's basically a stick-on, so I'm going to be using that on the seats, and most probably the roof lining in the front of the van where the cockpit is. As I say, you know, this is going to be a bit of a customized van for me, so I just want to sort of, you know, go all out really, I guess, on this. So I've got those bits in, and I've also decided as well to take the level of detail on this model to the next stage. Anybody who knows me, once I've got my teeth stuck into a model kit, I will find little bits and pieces to actually help bring it alive a little bit more and put that little bit of extra detail in there. But I've also got, for the inside of the van, for the panels inside, I've also got some 0.8mm balsa wood coming, so I can simulate the panel lines that you would normally get in a van on the inside, to protect the sort of the outside, I suppose, from getting dented up, I guess. So I'm going to be doing that too. So I've just ordered that, and hopefully that'll come in within the next couple of days. But I'm not sure whether you're going to see it too well, because this is only a small section of the van. But we've also got a couple of coats of the a couple of coats of the clear lacquer over the surface of this paint now. I'll just get my torch out and see if we can. You might be able to see some of the metallic pigments coming through on there, but that's just the engine bay. This is going to be a two-tone. I'm not quite sure what colour I'm going to use on the top part of it, but it's basically going to be from that point, sort of just underneath that line there. Everything's going to be the violet on that, and then above that is going to be the other colour, which I'm yet to choose. I'm not sure at the moment, to be honest, but I'll make my mind up eventually. So as soon as I've got some more work done to this model, I'll come back to it. I think I'm going to end this particular section of the video here, because I think it might be getting a bit too long now. So as soon as I've got some more work done to this model, I will come back to you. So until then, thanks for watching, and please do take care.